Well, good day to you. Welcome to Contemplating the Scriptures. My name is Garen, and I have a new video for you today. I have told you about the 7 heads in the earlier videos and explained what they are. I told you about the beast from the bottomless pit. I explained who he is. I told you about the origin of the Antichrist and what country he comes from. Today we will put all this information together and try to form a mental picture of what's going on. I want to talk to you about the 4 horsemen of Revelation chapter 6. Casual reading will not let you believe this. In other words, if you're just reading, just be reading and not really looking for anything, if you don't have a purpose for why you're reading, you probably won't catch it. You must think about what I'm going to say because it doesn't come to you easily. But then suddenly someday the light will click on and you will see what I'm telling you very clearly. And the first thing you're going to say is, why did I not see that before? It's always been there. My question is, where are we in the timeline of the last 7 years of this age? Not where are we today, but when the tribulation, the 7 years actually starts, how's that going to come about? So we're assuming that the rapture has already taken place, and this is where we'll start at. The 7th head is formed, and that is made up of 10 separate kings that are ruling the 10 different kingdoms that make up all the territory of the old Roman Empire. The Antichrist will come out of one of these 10 kingdoms, so we know that they have to be formed. We know only 4 of these kingdoms by name, and today we know them as Greece, Turkey, Syria, and Egypt. You can find that in Daniel 8 verses 6 and 22. The rapture has taken place. People are being reported missing, but those missing are not near the number that said that they were going in the rapture. If you go to church and you ask somebody, how you doing today? I'm just sitting around waiting on the rapture. Can't hardly wait to go. Well, when it actually takes place, some of those people are going to be surprised, because Matthew 7:14 says, straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. So in your mind, the world population now is at least 8.2 billion people. So what's a few of those 8.2 billion? How many people would that be? The prince of Greece has been confined in the abyss. He's been released from it and is now ready to help the Antichrist become a world leader. Revelation 17:8. Antichrist comes on a white horse in order to deceive people. He comes to receive his crown over a nation. In other words, he will be the new king or the new president of a particular nation. And Satan is the one who gives the Antichrist this crown. Revelation 13:2. This crown gives him power and authority over other people. He does not have to fight for it. He gets it through deceit and flattery. He will get it in much the same way that Antiochus Epiphanes got his crown. This new ruler of Syria is starting to make aggressive moves with his army. After he gets his crown, he starts to do the stuff that he came to do. Now his army is not large. It is nearly always outnumbered, but it seems to be very accurate in its actions. Alexander never lost a military battle, and this is because the unseen prince of Greece was in control of their actions. That prince of Greece will be the one that helped Alexander. He will be the one that will help the Antichrist when the Antichrist is revealed. This prince will help him defeat and gain control of 3 kingdoms. In other words, when he gets his crown, immediately he will start a war, and he will conquer 3 more kingdoms, and that's in Daniel 7 verse 8. Now these three kingdoms make up, the three that he conquers plus his own kingdom will make up the old Grecian Empire, Daniel 7:24. It is the same land area this prince controlled with Alexander the Great. When Alexander the Great was in power, and it only took him 13 years to conquer the world, this prince of Grecia was the one that was leading his military and telling him how to do things to accomplish this. When Alexander died, this prince was sent to the bottomless pit, and he has been there and will be there until the Antichrist is revealed. The Antichrist has been revealed now because the 10 kingdoms are formed and the rapture has taken place, and it's now time for this prince to be released. And when he is released, he'll come to help the Antichrist rule over his new kingdom. Now the Antichrist will revive the old Grecian Empire. In Revelation 13:3, it says, one of his heads was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. Well, what is a head? You have to understand what a head is, because there are 7 heads on this beast. What is a head? I explained that to you in the video concerning the heads. When you know what the head represents, you can see that an empire has been revived and brought back to life. It had never been done before, and that is why all the world wondered after the Antichrist. This tells you that the Antichrist is never assassinated and resurrected. It's not the individual person, it's not a human being that's been assassinated. It's when Greece was overtaken and lost their power, and they became weak, and they were basically just out of business when Rome took over. Well, now Alexander, or not Alexander, but Antichrist is going to bring this Grecian empire back to life. When the remaining 6 kings see what the Antichrist has accomplished, they will give up and submit to him. At this point, he will control all the territory of the old Roman Empire, and this will happen just before the middle of the tribulation. All this takes place, everything that I've mentioned up to this point, takes place in the first 3.5 years of the tribulation. Now, to give you an idea how this is going to start, I just give you the high spots, the highlights of what's going to happen. Now we're going to look at these seals individually and see what is taking place and what's going on. All right, let's look at Revelation 6:2, and that is the first seal. It says, behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him. That crown was given unto him, and that tells us who did it in Revelation 13:2. And he went forth conquering and to conquer. Now, most commentaries explain this rider as being the Antichrist claiming to be Christ on a white horse. There is nothing in this verse that says this is the Antichrist. So, what causes us to believe this? It is the information we get from other scriptures that influence our decisions on this. This bow tells us this rider comes in peace, carrying a long-range weapon with no ammunition. He is not an in-your-face combatant carrying a sword, leastwise not yet. No arrows also indicate his victories will be bloodless, much the same as what Antiochus Epiphanes did. Antiochus didn't have to shed blood to get his crown. This crown is given by Satan, and Revelation 13:2 says the dragon, which refers to Satan, gave him his power, his seat, and great authority. Verse 4, they worship the dragon, they worship Satan, which gave power unto the beast. This rider will come saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many, after he receives his crown, which makes him a king over a kingdom. His first order of business is to make a 7-year peace treaty with Israel. He will provide protection for Israel from their enemies, plus he will give Israel the freedom to worship their God as they want to. Israel in turn will help him in commerce, which will allow him to become very wealthy. His second order of business will be to start conquering and to conquer. Now, the Antichrist starts to conquer here in chapter 6, verse 2. Christ does not come to conquer until after the tribulation, and that is in Revelation 19:15. What is his kingdom and where does it come from? Daniel 8, verse 8, the great horn was broken. That's when Alexander died. In place of Alexander's empire, 4 kingdoms are formed. Today they are known as Greece, Turkey, Syria, and Egypt. And out of one of them came forth a little horn. Verse 22 says, that great horn being broken, when Alexander died, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of his nation, out of the Grecian kingdom, but not in his power. These 4 kingdoms will not have the power that Alexander had by himself. Daniel 11:36 to 12:13 identifies the Antichrist as the king of the north at the time of the end. This says the Antichrist will come from the northern part of the old Grecian Empire, which is Syria. This is Syria. He will be heading up the empire. When Alexander's kingdom, when he died and his kingdom was split, it was split into 4 countries, or 4 nations. Those nations are Turkey, Greece, and Egypt. That is the Grecian Empire, what it will look like during the tribulation. Now in Revelation 6, the riders of the 4 horses are not 4 different persons, but one person represented in a 4-fold way. The 4 riders of these horses are 4 different stages of the Antichrist's career. The Antichrist will present himself to the world as the Prince of Peace, and therefore riding a white horse. The effects of his rule are pictured in verses 4 through 8. It talks about the bloodshed that he causes in verse 4, the famines that are created in verse 5, and the pestilence that comes along and makes it that much worse at the very end in verse 8. Look at the second seal in verse 4. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. Right after he makes his treaty with Israel, he begins to reveal his true identity. He is not the Prince of Peace whom imitates the man He's not the Prince of Peace whom he imitates, but he is the man of sin, and that is the Antichrist. In this second seal, he presents himself as a great military leader. He will start wars as he takes peace from the earth and starts conquering and to conquer. All these many nations are fighting each other, and they will kill one another. Now, when he starts to make these moves and starts to spread out and flex his muscles to show people what he can do, who's going to be his first victim? It says that when he gets this crown, he immediately conquers 3 kingdoms. Well, who are they? who is the first victim. In Daniel 7, verse 8, I paraphrase this and worded it this way, hoping that it will help you to understand it a little easier. A little horn, which is the 11th, plucked up 3 horns of the first 10 horns. There is a little horn that come out of one of these 4 countries, and that little horn will be the 11th horn. And he will pluck up 3 horns out of the first 10. Verse 24, the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings. He shall subdue 3 kings. We're trying to find out who these 3 are and how he goes about it. Who are these 3 kingdoms he uproots? They are when you come back at the tribulation, these 3 kingdoms will be in existence. But the Antichrist is not ruling them yet. So the Antichrist will attack either Turkey, Greece, or Egypt. Now I don't know how he's going to do it, but if it was me doing it, and just from what I read about it and what little bit I know about it, I would attack Turkey first, because when he attacks Turkey, he would control the water in that part of the world. Turkey has built 22 different dams on the Tigris and the Euphrates River, and when the Antichrist comes in and conquers them, all he has to do is shut those gates on the dams. Those rivers dry up. More specifically, the Euphrates River will dry up, and that will be the dry riverbed that the kings of the east will travel on when they come in to help the Antichrist at Armageddon. So he would be the first one that he would get. After he conquers him, he will go to Greece, excuse me, and conquer them. And after he conquers Greece, he has to get Egypt to make it all complete. And on his way to Egypt, he goes through Libya and Ethiopia. Well, it says that he conquers Libya and Ethiopia. Well, Ethiopia evidently doesn't have a whole lot to say about anything, because at least Libya is flying the colors that the Antichrist will be flying. So anyway, Libya is out of the picture. They don't have anything to say about it. Now Palestine, they fly the same color flags as the Antichrist, but in the minds of the Palestinians, they are a separate country, and they want to be recognized as a separate country, but the world as a whole does not see them that way. They do not recognize them as being a separate country functioning on their own. So they don't have a vote in anything because they're not part of anything. They just want to be. So Palestine is out of the picture also. They don't have a vote on anything. Now then, that leaves us 6 countries: Afghanistan, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Sudan, and the United Arab Emirates. Those 6 and those 4 make up 10 different kings. Now these nations that he's conquering, the Antichrist, these 10 really, there's 9 of them. This one is not Greece is not the colors are not right on their flag. But anyway, who are these 3 kingdoms that he uproots? I just told you. Today, there are 9 countries that fly the Pan-Arab colors on their flags. Those colors are white, red, black, and green. And these colors were established in 1916 for the Arab Revolt. And that is somewhere in the neighborhood of 110 years ago. And that's when those colors was established, and today this many different countries fly those colors on their flags. These countries are Afghanistan, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Libya, Palestine, Sudan, Syria, and United Arab Emirates. Now, these 9 different countries that have flags with these colors all border Israel or are within striking distance of Israel with missiles. In other words, if they don't border Israel, they can shoot over whatever country that does border them and not hurt them, but drop their missiles into Israel and attack Israel that way. But when you look at these, there's only one of them that's flying these colors, and that came out of the old Grecian Empire, and you can find that in Daniel chapter 8, verses 8 and 9, and that is Syria. Syria is the only one that's been there when Alexander ruled, and he'll be there again when the Antichrist rules. Soon after the treaty with Israel is signed, the Antichrist will attack one of these 3 kingdoms. It will take him almost 3.5 years to subdue all 3. Now here's a question. I mean, you may not catch everything that I'm trying to tell you tonight. I know it's a mouthful. It's going to take a while to say it. But why does he attack 3 kings? Why not 2? Why not 4? Why these particular 3? What is special about them? When the Antichrist uproots and controls these 3 kings, those 3 right there, plus his own kingdom of Syria, he will instantly re-establish the old Grecian Empire that Alexander ruled. Now that says a lot, and that's why people are so bewildered. When you understand about these 3 kingdoms, it explains the deadly wound in Revelation 13:3. That's what I'm talking about. You just can't sit down and read this and think it's all going to come to you. You've got to think about it. And the question always comes up in Revelation 13:3. But that's where you learn that the Antichrist is never assassinated and he's never resurrected. It explains the heads of Revelation 17. The Grecian kingdom died when Rome came to power. That same Grecian kingdom, under one ruler, has now come back to life and rules over the same territory that it did originally. Revelation 13:1. I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads. Verse 2, the beast which I saw was likened to a leopard. In Daniel 7, verse 3, it says, 4 great beasts came up from the sea. One of them was a lion, another was a bear. In verse 6, and lo, another like a leopard. That gives you a leopard in Revelation 13, and it gives you a leopard in Daniel 7. You have to understand and know how those 2 leopards are tied together and what they mean. Both of them are mentioned. One of them's in the Old Testament, one of them's in the New Testament. They're many years apart. They're in the Bible. They're there for a reason. You have to understand why they're there. In verse 3, and I saw one of his heads as if it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. One of his heads. What is a head? You have to know what a head is to know what he's talking about. So when you have these 7 heads, when you number them and name them off, Greece is number 5, and when it dies, then the 6 and 7 kingdoms come in, and then number 5, which is Greece, comes back to life and becomes the number 8, the 8th kingdom, which is the Antichrist kingdom. In Revelation 17:9, here is a mind that has wisdom. And that's nothing more than common sense. The 7 heads are 7 mountains. What do mountains represent? 7 governments. Verse 10, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen: Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, the Medes and the Persians, and Greece. And 1 is living, which is Rome, which is the 6th. And the other 10 kings, it is not yet come. That's the 7th head. Verse 11, and the beast that was, which was Greece, and is not. When Greece died, it doesn't function anymore. Even he has become. In other words, he was and he wasn't, and now he has become again the 8th head, which is the Antichrist kingdom, and is of the 7. In other words, number 8 that will be there at the end time was also number 5 in the list of 7. So he come out of that group of 7. No other world ruler has been able to revive a dead world power and turn it into a new world power. That has never happened, but Antichrist will be able to make it happen. And because he's able to pull it off and make it work, all the world wondered after the beast. Revelation 13:3. We now have 4 of the 10 kingdoms accounted for, and the remaining 6 will submit to the Antichrist without a fight, giving him total control of the 10 kingdoms that make up the revised Roman Empire. And they will submit to him by the middle of the week or the first 3.5 years. I told you that in Daniel 11 verse 43 says that the Antichrist will conquer Libya and Ethiopia on his way to conquer Egypt. And when he does that, he has now revived the old Grecian Empire. We don't know who these other 6 kingdoms will be, but as you can see, this is a good place to start looking. We know who these 4 are. We've known all along. The Bible gives them to us by name. Well, not by name. History gives us the name. The Bible tells us that they're formed into these 4, and then history will tell us what the names of those 4 were. Now these 6 down here, we don't know who they're going to be. Just because these names are on these flags don't mean anything, because that can all change. But there will be 6 countries down here, and a good strong possibility they'll be flying the same colors of their flags that they got up here, which is the red, the white, the green, the black. All those countries will fly the same color. These flags here will change to this. Now let's look at the 3rd seal for a little bit. Antichrist presents himself as the controller of the food supply, doling out food at famine prices. I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. Black is a symbol of famine, and famine is the result of conquest and wars of the first 2 seals. Whatever this individual did in the first 2 seals, the results of what he did is causing the problems that they're having in the 3rd seal. The famine is a result of conquest and wars of the first 2 seals. Rationing of food by weight was a symbol of scarcity. A shortness of food will cause the prices to be 8 times higher than normal. Then it adds, see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. This hints that the famine is by no means universal. It suggests that side by side with the most miserable kind of suffering, there is abundance and luxury. Oil and wine are symbols of wealth, and only the wealthy will have sufficient food for a time, that is, until their money is gone. When the Antichrist starts his campaign to rule the world, there is never any peace or prosperity under his rule. He is at war from the time of his rise to power, that's when he gets his crown, until he is defeated in Armageddon. Now then, I want to skip ahead for just a word. We've been in the first 3.5 years of the tribulation. I want to jump ahead a little bit to the second 3.5 years to show you something here, and we'll come right back. In Daniel 7:21, the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. This is when he moves his headquarters from Babylon to Jerusalem and sets up shop in the Jewish temple. In Daniel 11:36, the king shall do according to his will. He shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods. 2 Thessalonians 2:4 says, who opposed and exalted himself above all that is called God, so that he as God sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Now, at this point, I feel like I have to ask a question. We're going to jump back now to the first 3.5 years. How can, I'm asking a question. Surely somebody else has got the same question. How can this mortal man sit in a public church and claim to be God Almighty? By now you should be aware that the Antichrist will come from Syria. Have you ever asked yourself what religion runs Syria? What religion is the president of Syria today? The answer to that is Alawite. Alawite. Now, in 2025, Syria changed their presidents, and this new president is not of the Alawite religion. The Alawite religion would be the easiest religion to accept the Antichrist. Now, the Nucerius doctrine was born in Iraq in the 10th century. This Alawite, there was a man by the name of Nuceria that lived in Iraq, and he saw things a little differently and spoke out enough that it got to the point that they finally run him out of the country, and that's when he made his thoughts and ideas of religion, and it's been around ever since then, ever since the 10th century. But when the French was ruling in that area, they wanted the Nuceri doctrine and religion. They wanted those people more involved in civil matters. So they changed their name to Alawite so they would fit in better. The Alawite doctrine includes a belief in reincarnation. This belief and the secrecy of the religion, plus the non-use of mosques, in other words, they do not have a regular religious service in a particular building at a particular time. They don't go to a certain building every Sunday morning to have church. They also have a great tolerance regarding alcohol, and the fact that Alawite women are not veiled has not set well with the Muslims. The creed of the Alawite falls completely outside the confines of Islam, and because of this, the Alawite religion is not truly accepted by the Islamic religion as being the same as theirs. Syria's leading military and security chiefs, these security chiefs are like our Homeland Security, are all of Alawite origin. They were up till 2025. The fact is that power in Syria was very closely held by the Alawites up until 2025. By becoming military officers, not enlisted men, but becoming the officers, the ones who give the orders, the military officers and their security chief, that don't mean that you work for the city, that means that you are one of the city bosses that tells these other people what to do. They became military officers and security chiefs. The Alawite used the instruments of war to seize the state in 1970. So they took over and run Syria from 1970 until 2025. Now, this religion would be able to accept the Antichrist because of what they believe, and they wouldn't think nothing of it. So when it comes back again, when it does, nobody will think anything about it because it's not a brand new religion. It's been around since the 10th century. So they won't think much of it. Nobody will. And he'll slip in, get control, and then he'll start doing what we're talking about. This religion was in place for over 50 years. When it becomes a world leader again, no one will even notice. The leaders of this religion claim to be God incarnate. The only country in whom this religion has any real strength is Syria. It's pretty much confined to Syria. Now let's look at the fourth seal. Here the Antichrist is presented as death. It is the creator of pestilence, which is disease and plagues. The Greek word used here for pale is kaloros. Every other place this word is used, it is translated green. And you can find that in Revelation 8:7, Revelation 9:4, and Mark 6:39. I looked, and behold, a green horse, and his name that sat on him was Death. Death will take the body, and hell followed with him. Hell takes the soul. And power was given unto them, unto Antichrist and hell, over the fourth part of the earth. We have decided that the rider of the white horse is the Antichrist. This clearly tells you that power was given unto him or to over the fourth part of the earth to kill. Now, what was he killing with? He was given power to do it. And how did he do it? In the second seal, it was with the sword. He was to kill with hunger, the same as in the third seal. And he is to kill with death here in the fourth seal. And he is to kill with beasts of the earth. Beasts are smaller kingdoms who fight against Israel to help the Antichrist. How do I prove this? Well, what I'm saying is that these beasts are not animals. They are human beings. Daniel 7:17 says, these great beasts which are four kings. Daniel 8:4, I saw the ram, and the ram represents the kings of Media and Persia. And 8:20, chapter 8, verse 20, kings pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before the ram. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. In Isaiah 28:14 says, hear the word of the Lord, ye scornful men. And these scornful men is referring to the Jewish leaders that rule this people which are in Jerusalem. 28:15, ye have said, we have made a covenant with death and hell. Are we at agreement? In other words, this is when the Antichrist made a 7-year agreement with Israel. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come unto us. Israel believes for the first 3.5 years that they made a good deal and that they're protected. Verse 18 says, God says, and your covenant with death shall be disannulled, and your agreement with hell shall not stand. What you think you agreed to will not happen. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, then ye shall be trodden down by it. 1 Thessalonians 5:3, when they shall say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, and they shall not escape. Notice that all four riders get their power from the same place, Satan. Revelation 13:2, the dragon gave him his power, his seat, and great authority. Let's look at the word power for a little bit, because the power is used in just about all these seals. Power was given to him in the form of a crown, which gave him power over people, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. Power was given to take peace from the earth and to kill one another. Power was given to him to control the food supply, and he caused famine and hunger. Power was given to them, the Antichrist and hell, to kill with the sword and with hunger and with death. Verse 8. Now that's the Antichrist. These four seals, I think, are representing the Antichrist in four separate stages of his career. And what he does today, the results of that is something he'll have to deal with tomorrow. And what he does tomorrow will cause the results of something he'll have to deal with the day after. So it's just a progressive thing that he's doing, and he's in charge of all of it all the way and responsible for what's going on. Now, I've taught this a couple other times, and the last time it was taught that there was some questions asked. Are we living in the last days? What does the Bible say about the end times? Well, how do current events line up with the Word of God? The religion that allows a man to exalt himself above all that is called God and lets him sit in the temple of God saying he is God is now in place and has been ruling a country for over 50 years. 2 Thessalonians 2:4. 22 dams have been constructed on the Euphrates and Tigris rivers in Turkey. When the Antichrist conquers Turkey, all he has to do is close the gates on those dams and the river dries up. Then the dry riverbed will be the prepared way for the kings of the east to come to Armageddon to help Antichrist. Revelation 16:12. Now, prophecy is kind of interesting. If you can read someplace where prophecy has been predicted, and if you can read where it has been fulfilled, if you'll notice, a lot of times it will be 100 years or more before another event will take place. Now, the Sanhedrin, the Jewish religion sect, was officially disbanded in about 425 AD. Then over 1,500 years later, in 2004, the Sanhedrin is officially reestablished in Israel. By the time the Antichrist desecrates the newly built temple, the Sabbath laws will be in effect in Israel, and the people will not be allowed to travel over 1 mile a day. Jesus warned them of this in Matthew 24:20, when he said, "Pray ye that your flight be not in winter, neither on the Sabbath day," because you can't go more than a mile if that's the case. So how are you going to get away? These four colors of the flags that are flying today, and I think these colors will be flying on the day that the Antichrist gets control, they were instigated, they were put in effect in 1916. And, you know, to 2016, that's over 100 years. So over 100 years ago, we were told that these colors would have some kind of effect on what's going to take place at the tribulation. These colors are flying today. That tells you how close we're getting. Israel became a nation in 1948. Here it is, almost 78 years later. You know, another 15, 20 years will be 100 years that they will be a nation, so it's time for something to take place with them as a nation. So these are pretty much, this is what I've got for the for today. I have one little something here I want to make you aware of. Now you could take this and had I heard it just out of the blue, I might not have believed it, but when I heard it and I was able to sit down and put it to pencil and paper, it made an impression on me. But did you know, this is one of those did you know questions. Did you know that half of the earth's population will be killed during the tribulation? Now that might not sound too bad until you go to looking at it. But up until a couple of years ago, the earth's population was 8.2 billion people. Now you can take that figure and add it and subtract it, and you'll get the same answer. Or you can do it with 100 people and get the same answer. It just not as much calculation done. So when this is over with, you sit down and figure this up and see what you get. When let's just suppose that the Earth's population is 100 people. This is the easy way to figure this. You can divide 100 divided by 4 equals 25, and that 25 equals 1/4. So 1/4 of the fourth seal. This comes out of this takes place in the fourth seal. It says 1/4 of the Earth's population will be killed. And what that does, you kill a fourth off, you kill off 25 people, that leaves 75 people is the Earth's remaining population. Then you go to the sixth trumpet in Revelation 19, no, I've got it here somewhere. In the sixth trumpet, Revelation 9:18, the sixth trumpet. You take your 75 people that are left and divide it by 3, which gives you 25, which equals 1/3. So you take 1/3 of the people in the sixth trumpet and kill them off. So you kill off 25 people. That leaves you 50 people that are killed in these two trumpets, and gives you 50 people who survived out of these two trumpets. So, doing it with billions of people, what it amounts to is 4.1 billion people are going to die when the tribulation comes, unless it waits a while and the population gets bigger. So if it gets to 10 million, these two verses here tell us that half of them are going to be killed in tribulation. They're going to kill off 5 billion people. Can you imagine the smell, the stink that's going to cover the earth, because it's going to be in the air and it's going to float everywhere? Your country might not be affected as bad, but you'll be smelling what's going on plumb across the country, because the winds will carry the smell. So anyway, it's something to think about. If you don't want to be here to see that personally, it might do you well to reevaluate yourself. But anyway, I'm just trying to give you the facts that as I see them and how I think that the scriptures quoting them. Revelation is the only book that promises to give you a blessing if you will read it and hear it. So hopefully you'll get a blessing out of this. That's all I've got for today. Thank you for watching. I will talk to you later. Bye.